Council meeting is still going on, but I convinced the council president to let me go. And I believe I have Councilmember Weezer joining me shortly. He's probably finishing up on one of his items. To expect him here. So I'm going to do a little tap dancing here on the theme of dancing shoes. And what we'll do is first, let's go through the agenda of all the items that will be either continued or on consent. And my understanding is in item number 1, we have several individuals that are here for item number 1. But it was requested to continue it to October 16. So that's a request that I believe comes either from the department or from the council office itself. So, okay, it did come from the council office. So, Roberto, read that into the record.
Sure.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask people that fill out a card if they'd like to speak on this item. One, in gratitude and apologies that you waited this long. And I want to make sure that we honor the fact that you made the trip all the way over to City Hall. So if you choose to speak, we will make that available to you. So Roberto, let's talk about item number 1.
Sure. Item 1, Councilman, is an MND and CEQA findings and a planning department report relative to a substitution of mitigation measures, environmental clearance, revised findings, and reapproval of a specific plan exemption with revised conditions of approval. It's a property located in CD4 at 3200 Duran Drive.
Okay, so we do have with us, and as understood, it's been continued to October 16th, 2012. So we have with us Sarah Jane Schwartz. Are you here? Would you like to speak? Come on up. Then we have Michael McKeel. Good afternoon, ma'am.
I'm Sarah Jane Schwartz and president of the Hollywoodland Homeowners Association, which represents 570 homes. The HHA strongly opposes the substitution of this newly proposed mitigation measure. We are currently celebrating the 20th anniversary of our pioneering specific plan. I and several other board members here were also on the board back then and worked on its creation. Unlike the Constitution, where people try to figure out the intent of its framers, we have the authors of our specific plan right here. We know our intentions, and quite frankly, we are frustrated that the intent of our plan is being twisted and that the decisions of the Superior and Supreme Courts are being circumvented. Our specific plan was developed under city guidance and took years of hard work to carefully craft and implement. During the past 20 years, 99 projects have been reviewed by our design review board under our specific plan. Less than half a dozen exemptions have been granted. They are rarely given, but we are not totally inflexible. The Planning Commission has not granted an exemption opposing any DRB recommendation because they greatly respect our process and are also keenly aware that any exception could become a precedent that could weaken our plan. Because this case involves our historically designated walls that run extensively throughout the entire neighborhood, an exemption in this case would be particularly egregious. It could stand as a precedent that would rip away the protections on Los Angeles Cultural Monument number 535. This fence project, which we have strongly and consistently opposed, is the first and only litigation involving our plan. When it was first built, the owner was immediately ordered by the city to remove the fence. Almost 18 months ago, the historic plaques on the historically designated stone gates at the entrance of Hollywoodland were stolen. We will be unveiling new plaques on this desecrated wall by the end of the year. The historic designated walls on Durand property were damaged almost 10 years ago, and they are still shamelessly under dispute. There are so many ways this homeowner can achieve privacy and still follow the findings of the DRB. This is not a case where one has to be sacrificed one for the other.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, we just, as you can tell, 2 minutes go fast. So if you can get to your points, you've written eloquent letters, you can submit them for the record as well. If you can get to your point, we would appreciate it. Michael McKeel, Christine O'Brien, Crosby Doe, and Fran Offenhauser. Good day, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Michael McKeel. I am here to oppose the negative mitigated declaration and the substitute exception, but I appreciate your allowing us to speak, and nonetheless, I will reserve my comments and come back when you are actually prepared to vote on it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next speaker, Christine O'Brien, are you here? Again, when this comes before the committee, we'll have public comment, so it's your choice.
Pardon me?
When it comes to the committee,
Yes.
we'll have public comment, so it's your choice to speak now or later.
Okay, so will I have an opportunity to speak at that point, and will that,
Yes, you will.
and that will be more relevant to the decision-making?
But it'll be before us at that moment in time on October 16th.
Okay, so basically, I'm here to oppose the exception as well as the negative deck, and I would ask all of you, but you're not all here, to do the same, so I also will come back
Okay, ma'am.
at that time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Crosby Doe?
Regretfully, we'll have to come back and make our comments on the 16th. We have submitted to you personally some evidence we'd like you to review and for the public record as well prior to your decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Fran Offenhauser? Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Fran Offenhauser, and I was an officer of the organization that litigated this proposal successfully, and this has been now going on for 9 years. I will come back and speak again for the full meeting. I simply want to go on record at this point in time as being opposed to any alteration to the mitigation measure and being opposed to the granting of the specific plan exception.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, the next item, item number 2 is on consent, see no cards. Item 3, we can continue in plum to October 2nd, and hopefully in council October 3rd. And if I can get a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be the action of this committee. Item number 4, we do have the directors of planning report. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Councilman. Lisa Weber, Deputy Director with the Department of City Planning. Good afternoon. It's been a busy week for the Department of City Planning. Yesterday, the Council Ad Hoc Committee passed through the Los Angeles Event Center, inclusive of both the Convention Center and the stadium, and that is scheduled for full City Council consideration this coming Friday. Also, this coming Thursday, the NBC Universal project will be heard before the City's Planning Commission, and that will be an alternative project to the one originally proposed. Alternative 10 includes a project that has excluded the residential component of the project, so we're looking at a project that does include hotel, office, and studio uses. And this is a project that we're processing in consultation with the County of Los Angeles.
Okay.
Also, with regard to our TOD planning efforts, the city recently submitted for a grant to the MTA in the amount of $6.4 million. This money, which we're hopeful to receive, will be used for planning efforts around the Orange Line, throughout the San Fernando Valley, West Side Subway, the Downtown Regional Connector, and this will really build upon our TOD planning efforts already underway with both the Crenshaw and the Expo 2 lines.
Is this part of the call for projects, or is this a different fund?
I believe this is a different fund from the call of projects. Also, as you know, San Pedro, the draft of the community plan is out. The EIR is circulating. That EIR review period is going to be extended from 45 days to 60 days. And in addition to that, the West Adams Baldwin Hills community plan was released along with its environmental impact report.
Great.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Fantastic. I had the Ad Hoc River Committee yesterday, and I'm hoping we get the CASP, the specific plan around the cornfield, moving. I know we're waiting for the city attorney. There's a way we can facilitate that. That would go a long way.
My understanding is that will be before the city decision makers in the next couple of months.
Great. That would be very, very strategic. Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of the report. Seeing no cards on that item, we're actually in our last item, right, Roberto? You want to read it to the record?
Sure. Item 5 is a motion, Weezar Reyes. It's instructing planning, DOT, Rec and Parks, engineering, street services, and street lighting to review the street standards around the USC Health Science Campus and to look for conditions that are no longer relevant.
Good afternoon, Councilman Craig Weber, City Planning staff. Essentially, the council motion from last month requested that the departments look into proposed street redesignations in and around the health sciences campus and investigate whether or not there could be some sort of concurrent review of revised street standards. So by way of summary, the University of Southern California has actually filed an application for a general plan amendment that would downgrade the street designations and then allow for greater flexibility of how segments of the streets are proportioned in terms of sidewalk and road widths. That application was filed last year. It has been on hold pending the completion of an environmental review. An addendum to an existing EIR for that area has been prepared. Comments to that addendum have been bounced back to USC, and so we're waiting for a final product in order to move forward with the general plan amendment. Despite that, the Bureau of Engineering has also submitted a letter to the committee indicating their awareness of what has been proposed. They've already outlined what specific conditions would need to be revised. The Department of City Planning is able to revise those conditions once the general plan amendment has been finalized. But as this committee knows, there is a process in place that includes a hearing officer's public hearing, a vote by the City Planning Commission, and ultimate action by the City Council. Obviously, that has not taken place yet, and that takes approximately 75 days once we're able to get started.
So the product from the USC's folks they've returned what you need. The document has been returned to you?
I mean, it's a pretty standard process with environmental impact reports and addendums. Usually, the applicant's consultant will prepare a screen check of a document. The Department of City Planning makes comments back to that consultant as to what language is appropriate, and then we wait for the final product. So the essential question of whether or not there can be concurrent review of the new, not yet existing street standards for the area, the answer is essentially yes, so long as the university understands that they're pursuing with that endeavor at their own risk. Obviously, there's a discretionary process in place around the general plan amendment, and it's ultimately up to the City Council whether or not the streets will be downgraded. So to consider the streets to be downgraded for the purpose of review is certainly possible, but it doesn't presuppose that the city is going to grant.
So to keep this moving along, this committee is suggesting that we refer this to the planning department in coordination with the Department of Transportation, Department of Recreation and Parks, and the Bureau of Engineering, as well as the Bureau of Street Services and the Bureau of Street Lighting to help pull this together.
Right, so
correct?
that coordination has already taken place. I mean, we've had a meeting last week. The letter that was submitted to the committee by the Bureau of Engineering really articulates what specific conditions would need to be changed in order for them to wrap their minds around ultimately approving the streetscape plan that's been proposed, but obviously nothing can be finalized until the general plan amendment is adopted.
Okay. Councilman Ruiz, I know this is your district, I would assume.
Thank you. So we are responding. That's not, no. So we are responding to USC, letting them know that they can do a parallel process for the B permit and at the same time with their pending general plan amendment, correct? That's the general answer.
That's the general
and
answer.
the quick answer. So someone's in communication with USC. I'm not sure who's here from USC. Someone here?
We do have a
Okay.
card here.
So you guys are going to move forward with your general plan amendment, correct? And you guys are coordinating that. I know initially there was some discussion as to how to even move forward with this process. It's a lot clearer now. Everyone knows what everyone should do. The one suggestion and request I have is I know that USC has further plans for this area, and if we're moving forward with other pieces of that plan, that we try not to piecemeal it, but that we kind of think collectively and holistically how to come back with either a specific plan or anything else, any other vehicle that would help effectuate those plans.
And the Department of City Planning has had similar comments. Fortunately, the benefit of having an environmental impact report in place, and in this case an addendum, is that it enables us to analyze the totality of what's proposed at this time, including future projects that might involve site plan review and so on. So that's our best mechanism at this point, to have a more holistic understanding of what it is that's happening in the area.
Okay.
But if I just would like to understand, Ms. Stone, please come to my, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Lori Stone with the University of Southern California. We do appreciate the fact that you were able to bring this item back so quickly after 2 weeks. Our goal here is we understand that the university is proceeding at risk, but really what we're trying to do is have parallel processing occur so that we have already started an undergrounding of the utilities on the public streets. It's a lengthy construction project. What we don't want to have happen is have the general plan amendment go through the full process and at that point start processing B permits and then have another year lapse before we can start the
Right.
construction. So this really dovetails the beautification as closely to the utilities undergrounding as possible. We think that's a huge benefit for the community and for the campus to try and shorten the amount of time that the public streets are torn up with construction.
I do know that there's a portion along Soto near Valley that lies within my district, and I share boundaries with my colleague. And I'd like to echo his observation and see if you're in a position to answer. But if you take a bird's eye view of all the different types of improvements and or changes that you're contemplating, are you in a position to give us a perspective that allows us to understand this ripple effect, this full impact, given that you have these railways, you've got outdated sidewalks? I mean, it's basically an industrial zone that sticks to the 1940s circulation patterns, and now you have state-of-the-art facilities at USC, some beautiful buildings. So is there a way to understand the bigger picture, or you're not there yet?
Well, there is. We do have an EIR that was certified in 2006, and there's currently an addendum to that EIR that the City Department of Planning is processing that does encompass the beautification as well as the current projects that the university is considering. In terms of Soto Street, the work that's going on there currently is the undergrounding of the utilities.
Okay. Perhaps if you can share that with my office, I'd appreciate it very much. If it's already been circulated, I'll ask the planning department. Was that already circulated in my office? Do you happen to know? Planning tomorrow?
I beg your pardon, the question was whether or not the recent plans have been circulated to your
Right,
office.
within the context of the addendum, to have that bird's eye view of what is the bigger picture?
We can certainly make sure that that has happened. I know CD14 has had a preview of
Yeah.
what's been proposed here, but I'm not sure to what extent your own office is
Yeah.
aware.
Well, we abut. We're right there at that corner, right where the bridge goes over Valley, or Soto and Valley. So it'd be great to. I share the same sentiments my colleague has. Is getting that perspective would be great. Anything else?
I do want to point out the Bureau of Engineering staff are here if you have any questions.
Anything else you'd like to add, Bureau of Engineering? No. Now, do we have a date certain? Do you have a date certain you want to report back? Because we did not give a date certain.
I didn't get a report back. So you guys are going to go off, effectuate this, but it's important to get a report back to this committee to make sure all the pieces and everyone's
And I want to
working
keep it
together. So
moving.
What would be a good timing just to hear back from where we are and how this is processing?
You know, the critical milestones at this point are the completion of the environmental, which is an addendum to the EIR, and then probably the next major milestone is the hearing officer's public hearing. So I imagine we won't really be in a position to deal with that for another 40 days or so.
60 days.
60
Perhaps
days.
it would make
Give
sense
us a
to report back
status.
in December.
Status update. Yeah.
Then we just keep it pushing.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Stone?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Our hope was that today we could get a referral back to council, understanding that I thought the departments were reporting back today. If you're just seeking a status update, we'd be happy to also participate in a status update. But our goal was really to get a direction from City Council that would allow us to proceed to parallel process at the university's risk in terms of being able to submit B permit plans and process them.
Just a moment, because we do have the whole hearing structure that has just been defined by our representative in the planning department. And that hearing structure actually needs to have certain thresholds. When you say parallel process, are you talking about other departments that need to move their approvals?
Right, so what we're seeking is having the ability to have our B permit plans processed in parallel while all of those other hearings go forward.
But it's my understanding now that that doesn't require city action. and planning department can correct me on that, but what the process that we started by introducing this motion was to coalesce everyone in a public manner to make sure we're all moving in one direction. We've gotten approval that it could be processed in a parallel manner by the departments. So unless I'm missing something, I don't think this requires city action, and we could start tomorrow, so to speak. So can I clarify that, please?
Our understanding was that BOE had asked for the parallel processing to be a city council motion, but
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Carl Mills, Bureau of Engineering. I'm not aware of any request to make a council motion for that.
Okay.
What is, maybe this, Councilmember, maybe what we could do is to make this a policy directive, is to have these parallel processes moving forward, so that way any legal mechanisms that allow for parallel process to occur can occur. So we can move that to council member, and hopefully not violate any CEQA laws or public hearing processes. Would that be satisfactory?
So we move this to council and just do
Yeah.
it nonetheless? Yeah.
Yeah, just move it forward, but make sure that all the processes stay intact,
Just get an additional seal of approval.
okay? And then my assertion is that between the different bodies, we're working with USC to make sure that we're not going in sequential order, but in parallel order, so that you have greater efficiencies. Would that be accurate?
that's correct. What we were hoping for and what we had understood was required was that some of the departments had felt that there was a need to have a motion from council that would allow them to process the general plan, to process the B permits, because the general plan amendment technically has not been approved, and we understand that we're moving at risk, but they wanted the assurance that they could start to process these plans, understanding that there was a future action that would have to happen. And so what
Okay.
we're hoping to have
Okay.
is have this item referred back to council and get that direction on the record.
So to reaffirm that goal, this action will go to full council, we'll vote on it, and we'll keep intact all the different legal requirements and procedures as long as we can demonstrate that they are moving in a parallel fashion. Roberto?
So the recommendation will be that the committee recommend to the council to adopt the motion.
Yes. Okay, and then that way you can say the council wants this too.
It'll go to council.
Correct. I think the only clarification that we would request is that the motion as currently written didn't actually have language requesting the parallel processing, so to the effect that you could include language that said that this would allow for parallel processing of the departments, that is what we are seeking.
Okay, Madam City Attorney, I see concern.
Hold on. Adrian Corisani, City Attorney's Office. That's not the motion. And effectively, whether you do or do not move this forward, I'm not hearing anything that prohibits them from proceeding. I don't think that that's what staff has suggested. This motion was simply for reports to come back here for a status update for this body. You could receive and file. It wouldn't affect their process at all. So to change this to do something more than that isn't on the agenda. That's not being discussed today.
Okay,
That's substantially different.
so that could be a new motion though.
That could be a new motion.
We will now, after the findings today, to amend it to say it's not only a report back, but that we will allow for the parallel processing. We could amend this motion and send it to council.
You could amend it and send it to council, but I think I need clarification then from engineering. Is that what your department was requesting?
I know what you want. We're just trying to find the right language to do it.
I'm not aware we're requesting anything. The only time I've heard of that was last Friday when we met with you folks, and I've never heard
Okay.
from our folks that
Well, let's do this. I'm going to amend this motion to say that we have the report backs, but also to amend it to say that we allow for the parallel processing, and we'll send it to council.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Did we respond to your question?
Yes, you did.
Are you
Thank
sure?
you.
Because
Yes.
you have a doubtful look on your face.
No, I believe you did.
Are you, I mean,
You're
she
all
keeps
good.
looking back. Are the chiefs back there okay?
The chief is okay.
The people with the big feathers, yes? I mean, they keep looking back like she's yes, no, yes.
Christina Raspy. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate for the university, and we were told by the departments that they would not be able to process our B permit applications until they had direction from the council that they were allowed to process them in parallel with the entitlements that we're seeking under the general plan amendment. So we were referred to this committee so that you could adopt a recommendation to send back to council so that the departments would have the direction they needed. So that's all we're asking for.
Encouragement for coordination and cooperation.
Exactly.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chair, just to summarize, then the committee is taking two actions. They're authorizing the processing of B permits, and also requesting departments to report back in 2 months, and that would be December 4th.
Okay. Yes. And that includes the amendment that we just heard from the council member, correct?
Yes. So the first amendment is to authorize the processing of B permits.
Yes.
City Attorney, I think for practical purposes, because B permits were not in the original motion, that should be a recommendation coming from this body, but not a separate action.
Okay, a recommendation. So recommendation number 1 is to authorize the processing of the B permits, and recommendation number 2 is to request the departments to return to committee on December 4th for further status report backs.
And just for the record, and I'm only reiterating what I heard from the USC representatives, that they understand there's a risk factor here, that should there be changes in whatever happened, there's an appeal or whatever, and the B permit started with one assumption, it might change in the mid-process. So for the record, I just want to put that and make that clear. Okay, so we're good with that? All right. Sounds like it's a unanimous decision, and I'm sure the stewardship of Councilman Huizar will prevail and his office, and we have all the teams together, and the quarterbacking is, never mind. I'm getting delirious now. All right, so that's the action of this committee. Okay, no other public comments? Anybody here for general public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.